Everyone wants to retire early, and not everybody has saved an exuberant amount of money, like millions of dollars, like you see in some of these YouTube videos that we do or others do. This is probably one of the most unique plans that I have put together, and I want you to bear with me. I'm going to walk through each step of it. I'm also going to point out different reasons why it's unique, and at the end, feel free to criticize me in the comments and let me know what your thoughts are, because this is something that is not normal for most people, but this is where we like to get creative. And I got to say, this was probably one of my favorite plans that I did for this client. So we put this together. We're going to call this person early retirement. And so for early retirement, the client currently age 57. Now, one thing, as I mentioned, things are unique for this client. Planning horizon 82. I generally like to plan for somebody to live until 90. It does depend on longevity in your family, though, and family history. So you've got to really look at that. And this person knows, listen, I'm not healthy. That was the conversation we had. So I'm not super healthy. There are some things for me medically that I don't think I will live to 82, but I at least want to plan for that for the just in case. So that's what we're putting in this situation here, and that's what we're putting for the client as far as life expectancy goes. Obviously, there's nobody else in the plan here, so we're just planning for that person, so there's not the concern of, oh, is there more dollars left over at the end of the plan for somebody else? Pre-retirement living expenses. Again, very unique compared to a lot of the plans that we've worked with and a lot of the plans we've shown here on YouTube. $2,500 monthly expenses, single for tax filing, savings. So this is another one that's quite interesting on what they've been doing. And so they actually have an inherited IRA that they're having to take money out of, and they have a small business where they're able to fund a simple IRA. Now, some people would say, well, why don't you do a SEP IRA? Well, a SEP IRA allows you to put 25% of your income towards that from the company. So if you make $100,000, you could do $25,000. But in this person's scenario, they only make $30,000. The max they can do is $7,500 for the SEP IRA. And so if you're looking at this breakdown here, and I believe that's the correct math on that, I was kind of doing that one on the fly as I was sharing this with you, but if we're looking at the simple IRA, the reason for doing the simple is you can actually do as much income as you have to the simple IRA. So by doing this, they're taking from the inherited IRA with a low income, they're bumping their income up by having the inherited IRA dollars come out. Now from there, they're redistributing the inherited IRA dollars in a sense to the simple IRA because they have business income. They're able to do that. And that's where they're able to contribute these dollars, get the tax back down so they're not having to pay a lot higher tax brackets. This helps this person specifically on their healthcare because they are, again, self-employed, working with things and have their healthcare extremely low of a cost here. And then simple IRAs, final year, they're going to be putting in a little bit less as they're working towards the retirement. All right, so income, as I just mentioned, $30,000 in income. That's the total income there. Social Security, we're looking at taking that, depending on what age they take it, 67 would be $1,550. And so that's something we'll address here in a minute. And then other income. Again, this is where it gets a little weird and tricky and unique. The title of the video is $500,000 and retiring on $500,000. That is what they currently have. But when I take you to the net worth section, you're going to say, well, you said $500,000. It's because what we're going to do here is we're actually going to use a funky strategy by using a covered call ETF that is going to provide them $18,000 a year. Now, I'm actually giving this a conservative number. So let me stop here and break this down for you a little bit, and I'll show you a different chart to really go into the detail and nitty-gritty of this. So there's multiple different covered call ETFs that are out there. You have to be very careful, though. A lot of times people say, well, why wouldn't I just do that and retire and not have to worry about anything else? The problem with these, and I'm going to show you this chart right here. This is QYLD. So it's one of the many popular ones that are out there. It pays, give or take, 10 to 12% dividends. Now, when I say dividend, though, it's not a typical dividend that you're only going to pay 15% taxes on. Instead, it's a dividend that would show as ordinary income because it's an option strategy. So if you have this in a brokerage account and you're getting the money and you're like, well, cool, this pays a dividend, it's only going to be 15%. That's not the case whatsoever. It's an ordinary income dividend. Now, part of this, to add another layer of confusion, could be considered return of capital when you get your tax return. The reason for that is, as you can see, the fund itself depreciates in value, generally speaking. There's little time here over the past 5 years, actually almost 10 years here in this, that you're looking at that it's went up a significant amount. Sure, 2016 to 2018, you did go up, but this is covered calls on the NASDAQ 100. These are the top 100 companies, a lot of very volatile but growth companies. You're talking Apple, Tesla, NVIDIA, all of these that are in this. And so if you're looking at this, it's not a wealth builder whatsoever. And when you do a covered call strategy, the way this is going to work is you're going to say, let's say we own the NASDAQ 100 and we're going to sell a call above that. Well, if you were to sell a call above that, then if the stock goes up and hits the mark there, eventually it's what's called called away, and you end up losing that and you have to go and rebuy. It caps the amount that the stock is ever going to go up, but the premium that you collect is what they're calling the dividend that then goes to you. It's a very unique, confusing thing, but becoming very popular. You have to be quite careful, though, because they are doing these on some that are paying a very high premium, which means that when you're selling the call for the income here, you're going to collect a really high premium. The problem is the volatility of the stock sometimes makes it so these stocks are continuously, or ETFs are continuously going down in value. There's another one that's out there called JEPI, very popular as well, has a little bit less of a dividend payout, but you can look at the chart here and see that JEPI has had times where it's actually appreciating a little bit more than QYLD. Depends on what your strategy is and what you're looking for. So I say all of that to say, again, this is one of the most unique plans that I've put together. I would never encourage anybody to just throw all of their money in something like this because it's going to diminish over time. All of your wealth will continue to diminish based on what we're looking at with the chart with QYLD. There are questions that are unanswered still on what does happen with these once they do run out of money. And a lot of that is talking about the idea of as the stock eventually goes down, they'll do a reverse
stock split.
And then that will allow you to have more shares there or a separate value there. No, less shares, but you're going to have a higher value again. And so it all depends on the way this is broken down. It gets quite confusing. Watching us, we do like to get a bit geeky, so I'm just breaking this down a little bit for you here. All right, so the other income, just to give you the idea, just what I talked about, we're looking here at using some dividend or some income ETFs that are going to pay a dividend for that $18,000. We're going to put $200,000 in to be able to generate this $18,000. We've built this on a conservative basis, saying that, you know what, we're planning on the dividend staying there, but not going up or appreciating in value. It's also going to be taxed as ordinary income with this, or short-term capital gains, so that we're not taxing it like a dividend. But as you can see, an annual increase of 0. So this isn't going to be planned to keep up with inflation. We've actually built this so that the dividend estimate here is going to be much less than what it should be for the sake of making sure that this plan is going to stay afloat. So again, very, very unique plan with this one. Retirement age 58. So they're about to retire. Early's about to retire here. Retirement expense, $3,000. Now, when I say $3,000, that's $3,000 total. What they have done is really tried to keep everything super conservative on their total dollars here and make it so that they could retire and live on a very low budget. That may or may not be your situation specifically. They've also included that that's going to cover all of their health care. That's going to cover all of their rent. This is everything for this person. And so we've broken that down. We did not include long-term care into this, and this client knows and understands that at some point, if long-term care is necessary and they've spent down all of their assets, potentially, depending on the state you live in, Medicaid does step in and helps to cover some of the long-term care expenses, though you don't get to pick and choose then where you're going. Instead, it's whatever accepts Medicaid. So that's one that they've talked through and we've talked through to really help break down. Now we're looking here at their overall investments. Early has a traditional IRA, an inherited IRA, as we talked about, that we're pulling money from right this second. And once Early retires, we're going to be using that because it has to be spent down. We're going to be using that eventually for the early dollars there with Early's retirement. They're going to have a simple IRA that they have, an individual account that's excluded. And so the individual account that is excluded here is the $200,000 that I talked about. And it was actually a $300,000 account. $200,000 is getting ready to implement this strategy. $100,000 is going to be invested separately. And that's what the proposed taxable dollars are here. And then they have the Roth IRA. So this is the total breakdown of all of their assets. As I'd mentioned, the property is rented and it is actually included here as zero because it is included in the actual expenses. This is another risk that we did talk about because if they have any move in where they're going or relocation, this could change the plan completely. So this person understands and, has went through all of these different scenarios, and we've walked through a lot of different things to make sure that this plan stays successful. And if we go over here to the retirement analysis, you've probably seen this many times with us. Probability of success is 1,000 scenarios. It's a Monte Carlo scenario. This is saying that they have an 84% of having $333,000 remaining at the end of the plan. So there's still a chunk of money remaining at the end of the plan adjusted for inflation, but we also have to make sure that this plan is going to sustain for the entire time. If for whatever reason, maybe we need to pull more money to put into the income strategy that we're doing or something else, we could look at that. And so this is just a base breakdown of what we're looking at on the overall scenario. As you can see with Social Security, this is one that you would think, well, maybe they should take Social Security early and it would make the most sense. Or if they took it at full retirement age, maybe that allows them to take the dollars later, have more dollars coming in to help offset any kind of risk. Well, the plan points that out and the numbers are right here as we can see. We have an 84% probability of success with $333,000 if they take it at 62. What only changes about $1,000 here if they were to take it at 67, the difference is the probability of success goes up because now they have a higher guaranteed payout than if they were to take it at 62. So that's one that we're weighing with the client. It's going to basically depend on the best case scenario on the situation when we get to that point, as well as their health. Because as I mentioned before, when it comes to Social Security, one of the biggest decisions you're making with Social Security is going to be based on your health. If you think that you're going to pass away at the age of 70, well, you're probably not going to wait until 70 to take the Social Security or even 67 because you may not get to the break-even point there. So this, again, a very unique, crazy plan, something totally different than probably what you've ever seen. I want to know in the comments what your thoughts are on it and if you think that I'm crazy for this one or if you think this is a great plan for this client.